On March 14th, we have one of the biggest events happening in 2025, which is the lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. That is a total lunar eclipse. So in this video, even though you've probably already seen it if you follow my channel, I'm going to give you a quick and in-depth recap of what to expect for your sign with the lunar eclipse in Virgo and how this is going to play out into the next 18-month cycle you're going through of life-changing shifts. Alright, hi guys, I am on the go currently, and luckily I've already filmed videos all about the lunar eclipse, but I wanted to refresh it into your guys' YouTube feed because this is truly one of the most important months or events of the month and of the year for certain, alongside the eclipse season we're going to have in September. This eclipse in Virgo brings destined events, destined changes, and also destined realizations, and I think that is not stressed enough. And so I wanted to pop this video back up into the beginning of your feed, sharing my old horoscopes I've already filmed for your sign. Watch for your sun and rising, personal opinion, not your moon, but watch for your sign. Look at how this may be playing out. You likely can already feel the energy of this lunar eclipse building because lunar eclipses are just emphasized full moons. And so we can feel the full moon's effect more than its usual 3 days before, 3 days after. Its energy has been building like a swelling tide. It's been pulling in the tide, so to say, like a full moon does. So in this video, I'm going to give you your breakdown of your horoscope, and hopefully the end gives you guys enough advice of each horoscope on what exactly to do with this energy. But know that this is bringing destined change, destined events, and destined realizations. This may be a mental realization for you. The lunar eclipse is shining a light on what needs to be let go of in a certain area of life. So comment below after you watch your horoscope, what are you realizing about this specific area of life for you during this time for your sun and rising horoscope? Hopefully this video helps. Let me know in the comments below if you guys enjoyed the fact that I brought this back up into your feed by reposting it basically, and I'll be sure to do that for the solar eclipse coming up on the 29th. This is also going to be huge. And I gotta run, but if you guys want to learn more about how this is going to affect you, book a reading down below where either in 1 hour we can dive deep into any and everything, or you can get your 30-minute horoscope. March 14th, if you pay attention to anything in the stars during this time, I'd recommend that you pay attention the most to eclipse season, these two eclipses. On March 14th, we will have a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo at specifically 23 degrees of Virgo. And at the same time, we have the sun in Pisces forming a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And more on that in a minute, since this came into play with the full moon in Leo that we had in February, I believe on the 12th specifically. But for the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, you want to look at whatever house Virgo is for your sun and your rising sign, in my personal recommendation. But regardless, for us all, this eclipse in Virgo means we're finally reaching our first culmination point in what it is we realize we need to release in relevance to our perfectionism, our critic, our inner critic, our critic towards others, our materialistic outlooks, and our overly practical nature. Virgo is the sixth sign of the zodiac wheel, and it represents this immersiveness in reality that is focused upon providing service and being more grounded. Taurus, as the first earth sign, finds that just to ground in the senses is enough, whereas Virgo finds as the second earth sign that it needs more structure. And so with there being a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo on the 14th of March, this is us realizing, releasing, culminating, reaping reward potentially too, in matters related to what kind of schedules we put into place for ourselves, what kind of routines, what kind of habits, what kind of material structures we need to release that no longer serve us, and how we can experience a fulfillment in the schedules, in the material habits that do serve us. This is a full moon, and full moons are usually about reaping reward. But because the South Node is here, this does put, I think, an emphasis on the releasing and letting go of what no longer serves. In example, for last eclipse season, we had a full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, and we were releasing patterns and realizing patterns around the need for approval that no longer serve us. So in my personal interpretation, while we can very well maybe reaping reward during this lunar eclipse in Virgo, I think the main theme is bringing a flashlight, kind of like the one I have in this corner here, lighting up and making us realize the critical, materialistic, perfectionist, or overly selfless patterns that we need to let go of. This can be like aha moments where we realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm still doing blank. This isn't serving me. This isn't serving anyone else. This is time to let go of this. Whether we actually fully let it go, that's hard to say, but at the very least, the clarity is the much needed reward that we're looking for. So really, the lunar eclipse in Virgo is the big main event, and horoscopes will be coming soon for your sign on that, so turn on post notifications and stay tuned for those. But with the sun in Pisces forming a sextile to Uranus and Taurus, this also adds a theme of maybe something unexpected coming up, because a full moon is a sun-moon opposition. And because the sun forms a sextile to Uranus and Taurus, there may be something unexpected coming up in our Taurus themes in our life, in our security, in our stability, that could be working hand in hand with this full moon. Because if the sun is forming a sextile to Uranus, we roughly have a trine happening, even if it's not exact, between the moon and Uranus. And so something unexpected that requires you to think differently could be coming up. And it could be somewhat related to themes that came up with the full moon in Leo that we had on February 12th, where Uranus was involved once again. That's also, and again, my personal interpretation of how I see this playing out. Again, more information on that for eclipse season horoscopes. So first and foremost, we have a lunar full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo at 23 degrees of Virgo on March 14th. With this eclipse on March 14th, Aries, this is the first taste of what it is you need to release regarding Virgo themes in your 6th house. What I mean by that specifically is that we have the South Node currently in Virgo. And wherever the South Node transits, that's what we're purging, releasing, detoxing, letting go of. And given that this is a full moon total lunar eclipse, this is a realization. We're shining a light, kind of like my light here. We're shining a light on what it is that needs to be let go of. It's like turning on the light in a messy closet. And so Aries, this is your 6th house of Virgo themes in your life. Virgo revolves around themes of perfectionism, criticism, or at least in the negative in the case of the South Node being here. We're reflecting on what it is we need to let go of that is overly materialistic, overly perfectionist, overly critical, or just even selfless outlooks on certain areas of our life. And for you, Aries, this is your 6th house. This is your health, your wellness, your habits, your schedules, and your routines. It really is encompassing your day-to-day life, how you perceive your day-to-day life. And so on March 14th, with the lunar eclipse in Virgo, as we lead up to that too, you're going to be starting to realize what kind of critical perfectionistic patterns are affecting your health and also affecting your day-to-day life. Are you overly materialistic in your outlook on life? I know for me as an Aries, I'm sure I'm going to be reflecting on how much I do. Am I a human doing rather than a human being? And do I need to look into deeper psychological patterns? However, this whole idea of looking into psychological patterns is not quite coming up for you yet. That'll really present itself more in September with the Pisces eclipse, but we don't have an eclipse in Pisces yet. So this is mainly about you realizing the first step you need to take to let go of something. Let go of something that doesn't serve you. And this could often bring destined events. Eclipses do bring destined events. They bring karmic events oftentimes. So something could be changing in your health, your habits, your daily routines that could be affecting your relationship with perfectionism, criticism, and all of that. If I'm remembering correctly, I want to say that Taurus had 6th house energy with the South Node last year, over the last 18 months, if I'm calculating correctly. So if that's the case and I'm calculating that correctly, ask a fellow Taurus what was coming up for them over the last 18 months, and that maybe can give you some clues into what can kind of be coming up for you. This eclipse on the 14th in Virgo is also forming positive aspect to Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus in Taurus has been shaking up your self-worth since, I believe, 2019. And so with it forming a positive aspect to Uranus, this could mean that something unexpected could be happening, especially because Uranus brings unexpected changes for the sake of innovation. I cannot stress that enough. Uranus is said oftentimes to be chaos and craziness, and yes, sometimes it is, but it's for the sake of up-leveling your mind, for learning to think differently. So something unexpected could for sure be coming up for you, Aries, with your finances, routines, your services, your health, and all of it is meant to help you release any criticism or towards others or yourself, anything materialistic that doesn't serve you, and to focus on more grounded self-worth, to cultivate more grounded self-worth and self-sufficiency and positive finances. There is so much more that we can go into with these eclipses, but that would probably be a 5-hour-long video. So now let's go to the event that is going to affect you even more, Aries, than the lunar eclipse in Virgo. On March 14th, we will have a full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo, specifically at 23 degrees of Virgo, where the South Node currently resides. And this is the beginning of a new chapter for you, revolving around cleansing, releasing, and detoxing what no longer serves you in your 5th house themes, which the 5th house has to do with romance, play, pleasure, and fun. It represents our simple life enjoyment, and it goes on the axis alongside the 11th house, which in the end, this axis revolves around what gives us a good life. And really, these together, these two houses give us the picture of a good life that is, we need both simple life enjoyment and meaning. We need to enjoy the little things and also have big impact. I understand, or at least feel this axis very strongly because it's my natal North and South Node axis. But point being for you, Taurus, when we have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, what you're going to be feeling as we get closer and closer to March 14th is this sense of something's got to change in my way of pursuing pleasure and joy. I know I want to move towards more meaning and purpose. I know I want more aspiration. I know I need a bigger impact. But first, I need to move something out of the way and make more space by really understanding what pleasure and play mean to me. With this being in Virgo for you, this means that you maybe go about pursuing pleasure, play, and life enjoyment in routine, monotonous ways. Maybe you routinely do things out of habit, going to dance, going out for coffee, hanging out with people who are supposed to bring you this sense of fulfillment and joy, but it's not necessarily doing the case, or it's not necessarily fulfilling that sense of life enjoyment that you're looking for. And so this could be a time for you where you realize any materialistic critical patterns that are there. This could also play out for you in more of an artistic setting. If you are an artist of some kind, which could be poet, pottery, dancer, a writer, blogger, anything where you're doing the creation process and you have critical dialogues around this realm, this could also be releasing itself during this time. There's so much more we can go into with the eclipse, but that's your key takeaway, and there's a lot to cover in March. But point being, March 14th, the full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo is bringing to light any critical materialistic patterns that you need to release. And I'll give you a summary on that in a minute. Also, a quick note with that, the sun is in Pisces forming a sextile to Uranus and Taurus on March 14th alongside this full moon total lunar eclipse, which also means it's forming a trine to the lunar eclipse in Virgo. So Uranus is coming into play with this. And point being with that, Uranus is in your 1st house. Since 2019, you've been trying to change who you are, change your way of thinking about who you are and how you perceive yourself. You may have been having, in a sense, a long-term identity crisis. And so now these changes that are taking place, this culmination and fulfillment that you're feeling with your creativity, pleasure, and passion could be positively working together with the ways you've been trying to change your identity. On March 14th, we are going to have a full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo at 23 degrees of Virgo. And this is the first key point we're having in the story that began on January 11th of 2025, when the North Node entered Pisces and the South Node entered Virgo. This is highlighting the difference or the axis of your career in recognition and your home life, being seen and being reclusive in many ways. Wherever the South Node currently transits is what we are cleansing, purging, detoxing, cleaning out the closet on. And this is for you, your 4th house of home and family. And so this is where we're having the lunar eclipse, the total lunar eclipse, which is in the end an emphasized full moon. And so this is a time to reap reward in this area of your life, but also shine a light, kind of like my light here in the corner, on what needs to be released. And I think the releasing side of things is really emphasized with a lunar eclipse based off of my past experience. It's reaping a reward still, nonetheless, but the reward might be the ability to let something go that no longer serves you. And this is even more emphasized because the South Node is all about letting go of what doesn't serve to make space for what does serve, which for you over the next 18 months is going to be about career. It is possible with the new moon in Pisces on February 27th, you are initiating something new in your career, or maybe even setting a new intention. Let me know if that was true for you in the comments below, Geminis. Point being, with the full moon lunar eclipse on March 14th in Virgo, this is a time for you to realize, recognize, what no longer serves you in your home life, specifically things in your home life having to do with being too critical, perfectionistic, or materialistic. Virgo is very earthly. It is an earth sign. It sees the material reality and tries to provide material service. And so maybe there's some sort of mentality like that presenting itself for you in your home life that is now being called to be released. You may realize some of your critical patterns or materialistic patterns in your home life. And this will kick off the changes that are going to take place over the next 18 months for you. You are letting go of what no longer serves you in your home life. First and foremost, on March 14th, we're going to have the full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo at 23 degrees of Virgo. And this is the first taste of the changes that are yet to come over the next 18 months. This is playing into the story that is now unfolding rather than the one wrapping up, in the sense that right now we have the South Node in Virgo. It entered Virgo on January 11th of 2025. And wherever the South Node currently transits tells us what we are cleansing, detoxing, purifying, letting go of. It's almost like the effects of a full moon, but in a grand hero's journey scale. So with the South Node being in Virgo, in your third house, this is having you release the critical, materialistic, or potentially even selfless patterns that are presenting themselves for you in your daily communication and daily network. And this is why we also wrap in words like social media or publishing or writing into this. It's the communication, the writing, the expression you do on a daily basis to reach people on a daily basis. So with that in mind, the full moon eclipse on the 14th in the sign of Virgo is your first taste of the changes yet to come in this area of life. You need to cleanse something here so that you can move towards more meaning and purpose. So on March 14th with the lunar eclipse in Virgo, there may be this feeling of something needs to be let go of in my daily network. So for you, Cancers, this could play out in two different ways I see, in the sense that the third house really does focus on both equally the words you actually speak and the people you interact with on a daily basis. In the end, it's about what is being spoken and communicated and networked with on a daily basis, but it could more so play out in what am I doing in my network on a daily basis, and what are these people in my network on a daily basis. So for you, Cancers, the beginning of the month and the overall theme for you with the lunar eclipse in Virgo being in play throughout the entire month of March is highlighting your desire and recognizing the fact that something needs to be let go of in your daily network and how you communicate with it. This could be potentially critical thought patterns you have towards yourself in your daily network, or this could be, even simply put, maybe the people who are maybe critical towards you in your daily network. How this really plays out for you is the sense that you know that the words you speak are important and the people you surround yourself with are very important as well. But with there being a full moon total lunar eclipse here, something is being fulfilled here, but also let go of. Usually full moons are a time to reap reward, and that is very much true still with the lunar eclipse in Virgo. However, I will say that full moons oftentimes are simply bringing things to light, kind of like my light here in the corner, and I hate when that air turns on. Ignore it, guys. With there being this shining light effect, what I think this really does highlight, while there's a reaping reward for you happening, Cancers, in your daily network that is wrapping up a 6-month cycle, really what I would say more so is important is this is bringing to light to you what no longer serves you in your daily network and communication. Maybe the overly materialistic, the selfless, or the critical patterns that are no longer serving you in this area of life. So the portal opened at the end of February, and then we have this amplifying energy, almost like a tide rising, a swell building, or a wave beginning to form as we get towards March 14th, when we have the full moon total lunar eclipse at 23 degrees of Virgo. And you'll see that on my screen, you'll see it says Sun in Pisces, sextile Uranus and Taurus. Hopefully I'll touch on that later, but I keep forgetting to talk about that because it's also secondary. There's so much that comes up already with there being an eclipse in Virgo. A Virgo eclipse, lunar eclipse in this case, is bringing to light our critical, materialistic, or overly selfless patterns that no longer serve us. And this is amplified as the South Node is currently here. Wherever the South Node currently transits tells us what it is we need to purge, detox, release, cleanse. It's like we're cleaning out the closet in a certain area of our life. And for you, Leo, this revolves around your self-worth and your finances. Wealth and worth go hand in hand in astrological terms. And so with there being a south node here, the south node here currently, over the next 18 months, you are recognizing and releasing what no longer serves you in your self-worth and self-sustainability. The second house in the end has to do with sustaining the self on their own. Hence why it is our self-worth. It's where we find our own worth in ourselves without needing the validation of others. But this also applies to our financial world. This is where we make money to support ourselves on our own, where we find our sense of self-security in the end. And so with the south node here, you are cleansing this area of your life. Maybe any critical patterns you have here that keep you from your self-worth, any materialistic behaviors that keep you overly self-sufficient in a sense, or maybe even selfless patterns that keep you from being in the level of self-sufficiency that you want to embrace. So that's an 18-month theme, but this is highlighted as we get closer to March 14th, as we have the lunar eclipse in Virgo. This could be a key point for you in reaching a realization point, culmination point, a fulfillment, or a release in these themes in your life. In the end, a full moon is the sun shining a light on the moon, kind of like this in the corner here, my little light. And what that does is that it brings to light what no longer is serving you in your self-worth, in your self-sufficiency, and in your finances. Anything related to Virgo themes in this area of life, your self-security that is practical, detail-oriented, overly critical towards others, critical towards self, and in the end, materialistic. I think materialism is really the main theme with Virgo being here with this eclipse and with the south node being here in Virgo, because this is highlighting our materialistic earthly themes as opposed to Pisces, which is all about spirituality. This is also wrapping up technically a 2-week cycle with the new moon in Pisces. So you can look back to the new moon in Pisces on February 27th to know maybe what you are initiating and how this now comes into play with the lunar eclipse in Virgo. However, the new moon in Pisces is not a eclipse, so I wouldn't take that into heavy account. And like I said, Uranus and Taurus is involved in this lunar eclipse, not solar, and with it forming positive aspect, this simply means that over the last few years, since 2019, you have been trying to change something or have gone through unexpected change in your career. And now those changes that you've made in your career could be working hand in hand to help you recognize what needs to be let go of and what kind of fulfillment you can receive in relevance to your self-worth. So really, this lunar eclipse in Virgo gives you the first taste of the changes yet to come in your self-worth, self-security, and financial well-being over the next 18 months. On March 14th, we will have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, your sign. And this plays out with, or comes into play with, the current story we have going on with the North and South Node. As of January 11th of 2025, we had the South Node enter your sign, Virgos, which means you're cleansing out, releasing what no longer serves in relevance to your sense of self and self-identity. This applies to Virgo Sun, Moon, Rising to some degree, mainly Sun. And you probably heard all about this in my video that I'll put up above, because so many of you watched my Virgo horoscope for 2025, 70,000 of you, which I appreciate so much. So thank you guys so much. Let me know if you appreciated that in the comments below, and let me know if this is starting to resonate true. Point being, with there being a lunar eclipse in your sign, this gives us the first taste, and you specifically Virgos, the first taste of what changes are going to be taking place in your sense of self-identity over the next 18 months. So until roughly July, I believe, of 2026, you have massive changes happening in your sense of self, your appearance, how you show up in the world, how people perceive you, and how you perceive yourself. This really is the time to shift how you see yourself and how that shows up in the world. And so with there being a full moon lunar eclipse in your sign on the 14th, what this does is that it brings you this sense of first initiation of realization, shining a light on what parts of your sense of self are no longer serving you that may need to be released. Whether or not you release them yet, that is up to you, or based off of how things are playing out for you in your personal life. This could just simply be the realization for you that you need to release something in your life. So on March 14th, we will have a lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. The lunar eclipse will peak at 23 degrees of Virgo, and you'll see on my note over the screen that it forms a positive aspect to Uranus in Taurus, which I'll bring up in just a minute. But there's enough to already cover with the fact that this is happening in the sign of Virgo, which is for you, your 12th house, the house of the unconscious mind. You might want to ask, if I'm calculating correctly, let's see, that would be if you ask a Scorpio friend, I believe, what was the last 18 months like for them? You'll get some ideas into what may be coming up for you. Specifically, maybe what was even happening, I believe, for Scorpios last April, potentially. Point being, though, with there being an eclipse in the sign of Virgo, what does this mean for you? This plays out into the picture of a greater story that is playing out over the next 18 months with the South Node being in Virgo. The South Node being in Virgo is asking us all to cleanse, release, detox what no longer serves us with critical, materialistic, overly selfless beliefs or habits. It's getting into a more spiritual way of moving through life and focusing more on what we feel and how others feel rather than what we do. And eclipses mark key points, key mile markers, or key chapters in our story. And we had eclipses last April and October, and the last April/October before that, to get an idea of maybe how pivotal of points this can be. The point being, though, this lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo is a moment of release for us, but also reward. Full moons or lunar eclipses are emphasized full moons. And so there's this effect of shining a light on a certain area. And this is accentuated because the South Node is here. We're shining a light on the habits and behaviors that no longer serve us. Kind of like the light here in my corner. But what exactly habits or behaviors are no longer serving you? This has to do with your unconscious mind, since Virgo is your 12th house Libras, or for your sun, moon, and rising, it's your 12th house in one of those horoscopes. So with this being in your 12th house, what this means is you're going to be reflecting on, realizing, bringing to light the unconscious thought patterns around your critical behavior, around your materialistic behavior, and around your selfless behavior that no longer serves you. Overall, over the next 18 months, you are growing to prioritize your emotional, healthy habits, doing things, sitting down and actually focusing and prioritizing on the things that make you feel good. But in order to do so, the lunar eclipse in Virgo at 23 degrees of Virgo is inviting you this month on March 14th to realize what unconscious patterns you are playing out that drive your actions potentially, or maybe even what are the things you do on autopilot and what is the root thought behind that. This is an interesting and sometimes complicated dynamic to explain because Virgo, with the South Node being here and the eclipse being here, is focused on what are the material things I do that aren't serving, that are overly materialistic or overly focused on the material. But then we're talking about the natural Pisces house, which is the 12th house, meaning that this is the unconscious mind and the non-material. So how does that play out? What are the things you do unconsciously for the sake of a material result, or that are overly focused on the material side of things? This lunar eclipse happening on March 14th is giving you the first taste of the changes yet to come in your relationship with your unconscious mind, the critical thought patterns, the unconscious fears, the inner work practice that you even do. So if you don't really have a spiritual practice or a practice of recognizing your unconscious mind, if you let yourself act on autopilot, if you feel truly like the 95% of your thoughts that are beneath the surface are remaining completely unconscious, you will be bringing this to light to transform it. So this is the taste of the changes yet to come over the next 18 months. This is the beginning of a new cycle. And so starting off on March 14th, the first eclipse you'll have will be a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. Lunar eclipse in Virgo is indicating the changes that are coming towards you over the next 18 months, revolving around your relationship with purpose and play, with, in the end, how you find a meaningful life and how much of that has to be about a selfless leaving an impact on humanity and how much of that is just about enjoying yourself. The South Node is currently in Virgo, and that means you're currently, Scorpios, releasing, cleansing, purging, detoxing any critical, overly materialistic, or overly selfless ideas around your sense of purpose, around your sense of impact, and what you're here to do for humanity. If you have been someone who feels like you're heavily leaning into this idea of helping humanity, finding that sense of life enjoyment by just serving the world, it is potential. There is a potential during the eclipse on March 14th that you're going to start realizing some of these biases that aren't serving your overall well-being or the well-being of the humanity at large, so to say. with the lunar eclipse on March 14th in the sign of Virgo. This simply put highlights and shines a light, kind of like my light here in the corner, on the negative habits around or negative mentalities around perfectionism, being critical, being materialistic in your realm of purpose. And this could also be potentially your realm of community and friend groups, because the 11th house is not just the house of purpose. It has to do with our place in the world in the end, and hence why it's purpose in the first place. It's all about where we ask the question of, why am I here? And oftentimes we find that sense of purpose of why am I here through our friend groups, but we can also find it through our big aspirations, big projects, and trying to help humanity. So there's a few different ways this can play out for you, Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and more. But overall, there's a theme in the first half of the month as we build up to that lunar eclipse in Virgo of releasing what no longer serves you, in this idea of who you should be or who you have to be to have a place in the world, and to find that sense of meaning and to find that sense of purpose, whether that is within a community or if that is in what you do to help humanity. March 14th, we have the lunar eclipse in Virgo at 23 degrees of Virgo, which is a total lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse in Virgo gives you a sense or a taste of the changes that are yet to come in your career and home life. As of now, the North and South Node are in Pisces and Virgo, the South Node being in Virgo. And wherever the South Node currently transits, it tells us what we need to purge, detox, release, and let go of in order to make space for what truly fulfills us in those areas of life. So for you, this is transiting your 10th house, your midheaven, the highest point in the sky for you, the thing you're most easily recognized for, which as a Sagittarius rising with a 10th house midheaven, maybe it's possible that you are in a career or getting recognized for the negative traits of Virgo. And this is something you're coming to realize more and more as we get closer to the lunar eclipse on March 14th. You could feel the sense of realizing in the end that there's something that is selfless, materialistic, or maybe overly practical or perfectionist in your career and your career image that is no longer serving you. That is what the lunar eclipse in Virgo is here to do. It is shining a light on what no longer serves you in your career. Kind of like this light here in my corner. It brings to light the things that aren't serving us and aren't in alignment with our highest self or our highest journey. Overall, over the next 18 months, you are moving towards your home life. You're growing in your home life. But in order to do so, there's something that potentially needs to be released in your career, your public image, or how you are recognized. The question to ask yourself during this time, Sagittarius, is, am I being recognized for what I want to be recognized for? Or am I being recognized for low value traits I would consider in relevance to my own strengths and talents? The lunar eclipse in Virgo brings massive shifts, massive release, and fulfillment to your career and your public image. And this applies to those especially who have entrepreneurial paths or are in more so leadership roles. But if that's not necessarily the case for you and you have more so a 9-to-5 job, this could be a subtly different area of life where you feel you have the most recognition potentially. It can play out in your job as well, but really in the end, the midheaven gets at where we are recognized the most. So something in about how you are recognized, where you are recognized, how you receive recognition for what you're good at is being brought to light to be released, cleansed, and fulfilled on the 14th. On March 14th of 2025, we have a full moon total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, a fellow earth sign for you, Capricorns, at 23 degrees of Virgo. And Uranus is involved in this, in another fellow earth sign, which is really bringing hand in hand your sense of self, your beliefs that shape your identity, and what brings you a sense of pleasure, fun, and joy are all coming together during this full moon in Virgo. Words. If you have any other major Virgo, Taurus, or Capricorn placements other than maybe your sun, moon, rising, this is going to be even more huge for you. But with the total lunar eclipse in Virgo, what does this really mean for you? Eclipses, regardless, are meant to be major mile markers or key points in our journey. I love how Moon Omens described that the eclipses are like portals, in the sense that sometimes it feels like we're stuck in a room with no doors, no windows, no way out in life. And usually this energy comes up right before we have eclipse season, and then eclipses come, and they open doorways that didn't exist before. They give us a new potential to step into, something that is destined on our path, but we were unaware of before. So that oftentimes can be the energy presenting themselves with eclipses. And for you, with this specific eclipse in Virgo, this is bringing you a new way forward in your personal beliefs and ideologies. The South Node is currently in Virgo. And so what that means for you is that you are in a phase over the next 18 months of cleansing, releasing, detoxing, purging what no longer serves you in your personal beliefs, ideologies, and travels. How much you step out of your comfort zone and how much you find meaning through your personal beliefs and ideologies, whether that's veganism or Buddhism or even following a certain influencer. This has to do with the beliefs that shape your identity. These are being cleansed and detoxed. And so on March 14th, when we have the lunar eclipse in Virgo, this means that you are bringing to light, or something is being brought to light by the universe to help you see, kind of like my light here, what is no longer serving you in your personal beliefs and ideologies. Please ignore the dogs barking. Also, with a full moon lunar eclipse, it's not just a time to see and bring to light things, it's also a culmination point. So there's a fulfillment happening for you in your personal beliefs, ideologies, and travels and philosophy by realizing what's not serving you. It's almost this sense of, if I was going to use my light, oh, there it is, and now I can receive, because I am bringing to light what needs to move out of the way so I can receive the light. I see what's blocking the light now. And so that is with the lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th of March. That is bringing to light what is the changes yet to come for you over the next 18 months. Starting off in this month relevantly, March 14th, we will have a total lunar eclipse in Virgo at 23 degrees of Virgo that forms very positive aspect to Uranus in Taurus. You may be able to get some similar themes looking back to the full moon in Leo that we had last month, I believe on February 12th, that had Uranus aspect to it. However, challenging aspect, but maybe you can get some themes there as well, just additional information. Point being, for you, Aquarius, what this Virgo lunar eclipse does for you is that it's bringing to light, culminating, reaping rewards for you in your intimate relationships. However, I do want to note the 8th house is the house, as I got questioned about, isn't it not about intimate relationships? Isn't that the 7th house? To my understanding, the 8th house is all about our intimate relationships. 7th house is handshake agreements. 8th house brings to light intimate relationships, but that also includes your intimate relationship to yourself. You can only be as intimate with others or as vulnerable and deep with others as you are deep with yourself. And so this is why oftentimes when we're looking at the 8th house, we see words like shadow work, inner work, and also sexuality and intimacy, because this really revolves around the merging of lives, the phase of life where we merge finances, merge mentalities, merge routines, merging with another for the sake of depth and intimacy. So for you, Aquarius, the Virgo lunar eclipse in your 8th house is bringing to light the changes that are yet to come in your intimate relationships over the next 18 months. The South Node is currently in the sign of Virgo, and it has been since January 11th of 2025. And wherever the South Node transits, this is where we are purging, cleansing, detoxing, releasing to make space for what really fulfills us. And so for you, with this being your 8th house, you may be realizing some critical, materialistic, selfless patterns in your intimate relationships, your codependent relationships that are no longer serving you. How I would see this likely playing out for an Aquarius, or in this case, is maybe you realize you're selflessly giving too much in your intimate relationships. Maybe you're acting as a housewife, so to say, to your partner, and that's no longer fulfilling for you. That wasn't your idea of what an intimate shared relationship would be. You're redefining what an intimate relationship means to you over the next 18 months. And this Virgo total lunar eclipse is going to be a key moment, shining a light on what it is exactly that you need to let go of during this time, and also at the same time, reaping a reward. A lunar eclipse is a full moon, and full moons are, while they shining a light, they are also a time to reap reward. They're always time to reap harvest. That is always what is said. And so you may be realizing what no longer serves you in your intimate relationships, and at the same time, reaping a reward by having that realization and starting to see what the potential is in your intimate relationships so you can find that fulfillment. So the Virgo lunar eclipse in your 8th house, also forming good aspect to a fellow fixed sign in Taurus, could mean something unexpected breakthroughs in your sense of stability. This could specifically involve changes with your home, since as I calculated, I think correctly, that the 4th house, or Uranus in Taurus, is in your 4th house for you. So unexpected changes in home that you've been working towards stability in home could come into play with this Virgo lunar eclipse. So starting off in March of 2025, on March 14th, we will have a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, your opposite sign, Pisces, which I'm sure I mentioned in your overall Pisces 2025 overview. This is a huge moment for you since this is on your axis. The Virgo lunar eclipse will specifically happen at 23 degrees of Virgo, and it forms a positive aspect to Uranus in Taurus, in your 3rd house, as I'm calculating correctly, I hope. And I'm a bit delirious at this point from filming. But point being, with the Virgo lunar eclipse, this is bringing destined, life-changing events and realizations and people and opportunities to your one-on-one relationships. Over the next 18 months, with the South Node being in your 7th house in Virgo, this highlights the need to cleanse, detox, purge, and release what no longer serves you in your one-on-one relationships, which doesn't just mean romantic. This also means your one-on-one partnerships in your one-on-one interactions. As a fellow Aries, or as a Aries who recently had the South Node transit their 7th house, really this meant defining how I want my interactions to go one-on-one. What does friendship mean to me? What does connection to the outside world mean? And what do I expect from other people in my one-on-one interactions? Similar themes will likely be highlighted for you, and especially highlighted in this month of March. If you're in a relationship, this could mean major turning points in your relationship. Not to fearmonger, and not to at all really fearmonger, but last March for me, with the lunar eclipse that was in my 7th house, I ended my 1-year relationship because it no longer served me. And so really the theme with the lunar eclipse in Virgo for you, Pisces, is releasing what no longer serves you and bringing to light what isn't serving you in your one-on-one relationships. Likely for you, this is going to be any sort of critical, selfless, or materialistic behavior that you take to your relationships, whether that is being too giving to your partner, or your partner being too selfless and practical to you rather than giving a spiritual connection. The possibilities are endless, but regardless, the Virgo lunar eclipse is bringing your first shift or taste of the changes yet to come in your one-on-one relationships over the next 18 months or 17 months relatively. And with this forming positive aspect to Uranus in Taurus in your 3rd house, it is very likely that the changes that you've been going through in your daily network, daily communications, and publishings since 2019 could be coming into play with this to help you establish more firm sense of self-security in your one-on-one relationships.